I just love her, and I love her style. I love her craft. Give it up for Jodi Murphy.
Come back with me, will you? It's 1976. 14-year-old Jodi is sitting in her living room's sunken wet bar with the orange Formica curved countertop. Smoke hung from the ceiling like this bar. Everybody smoked at the time. And I'm sitting across the bar from my father. All 5'8", balding, big schnoz, mustache. He was a giant. He was a giant to me. And he said to me, you know, Jode, when I die, of course I expect you to be sad, of course. But what I don't expect is for you to be broken. Because my job is to make you the most competent, capable young woman possible so that you don't need your daddy. You can walk this world without me. Man, what a generous parenting moment that was. From that moment on, I thought, you know what? I can be that girl. I could do that. You know what else he taught me? How to skin a rabbit. I got mad skills, people. So who was this dad of mine? He was the quintessential Renaissance man. Not only was he a doctor in the heyday of being a doctor, he was well-read. He was interested in everything. He grew orchids. He loved dancing. He loved the opera. He could cook. He not only sewed bodies, he sewed bodices. He would sew gowns for my mother. He would sew gowns for himself. Come to think of it, my dad was completely gay. Am I right? Or as my mom would say, just gay enough. On the other hand, this Renaissance man liked to hunt, fish, and fuck, and not in that order, because he sired 6 daughters in 9 years. The man was essentially his own beard. Woo! I'm gonna circle back to the gown thing just so you don't think it's weird. It wasn't a gown, think moo-moo. The man sewed his own moo-moos. It was voluminous fabric, a long zipper, and 2 ample pockets. One was for the Benson and Hedges menthol, and the other was for his spectacles. Well, he's living with 7 women, right? How are you gonna get your kumasi-kamis to hang low without creeping out the youngins unless you got a little action going on, a little fabric? So his gullions could bang around with Wilder Banyan, and we didn't even know it. He was a confident man, right? So my dad and I, actually, we had a lot of commonalities. One, we were both the babies of families of 6. Secondly, we both had mustaches at the age of 14. Mine cleared itself up once the estrogen kicked in, but we never saw my father's upper lip after that point. Never. Mustache was him. Third was in adolescence, we kind of toted the same body style, which my dad delighted in. He would say, "This is my youngest daughter, Joella. As you can see, I gave her my chest." Dad, oh my God, real funny. Funny, Dad. Brilliant for my brittle self-esteem, but even more brilliant for my plastic surgeon's checkbook. You're welcome. But here's the thing, this moo-moo-wearing Renaissance man grew up dirt poor, like dirt floor poor, like no running water outhouse poor, at a farm in Willisville, Illinois. His parents were both immigrants. His father was a coal miner. Guess what he got for Christmas? Just kidding. My Nana, was a badass boss bitch. She brought the mafia energy, and what she said ruled, okay? My dad would describe on the farm, people would stop by, back when people did the drop-in, you know, and Nana would announce, "Are you staying for dinner?" That, like my accent? Very, very realistic. You're staying up for dinner. I worked on that. Anyway, she didn't ask. She told them they were staying for dinner. They weren't even through the front door. With that, she runs out the back door like a crazy person, starts running for the vegetable garden. She scoops a chicken up on the way, wrings its neck, drops it, never breaks stride. She goes to the vegetable garden, picks out the vegetable, pick, scoops around, scoops up the now quite dead chicken, and plucks it on the way back to the house. She takes it all, stuffs it in a pot, and in an hour you had a meal fit for a king. Yeah. Right? My noni would say, it's a good restaurante, and the price, it's just right. It was a little better, wasn't it? Anyway, but my dad remarked that through his mother's resourcefulness, he never felt lack, even though they had so little. Here's the thing. No one in my father's family was educated past the 6th grade except my dad. Baby Nicky the doctor, he got the nod from Nana to say, you are going to be a doctor. So the family pooled all their resources and efforts for his education, and his alone. He supplemented his scholastic education with lessons from the Boys Club of America. They taught him literally what fork to use in formal dinners, when to stand, when to sit, how to dance socially. My dad would go back home and he would recreate the table setting, and he would teach his whole family all of these mores and customs that were going to be needed in an educated world. Beautiful, right? They eventually moved off the farm and bought land in Wakanda, where they all built each other's homes. They all had built the same home next to each other. Brick by brick, they built homes. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a roof, and love. What a great success story, right? Eventually, time marched on. My dad's practice started to grow, as did his family, that horny little bastard. And soon we ran out of space, and it was time to move on up. And move on up we did. I don't know how familiar you guys are with first generational wealth. It's not understated. Not understated. They built a giant house in Oak Brook and plopped us in the middle of it. Now, we're in a neighborhood of titans. Our neighbors are the Ludwig family of, Ludwig Drum. My neighbors, the Huizinga family of Blockbuster Video and Waste Management. My neighbors. I didn't know who all these old people were, but they were just my friend's parents. So think about it this way. My dad had 6 daughters to marry off. Putting us in Oak Brook was the ultimate product placement. Told you he was smart. Okay, so imagine being the lone ween in a house of 7. This man bought Kotex and tampons by the case. He timed his hunting and fishing trips to coincide with the red wave, when we'd all coalesce our periods and turn into nightmares. And when he went hunting and fishing, this wasn't sport. This wasn't for a head to hang on the wall. This was to put enough dead stuff in the deep freeze to last us all winter long. And this man was a good shot. So you'd think on a daily basis, could you imagine what's going through his head? Of oh my God, how am I going to go back into Estrogenville? Well, it's real easy to do when you're the king. And he might have been the prince at Willisville in the farm and got the nod, but he was the king of our house. He was a lion of the pride. And he deserved it, quite frankly. My mother was right in there with us, so we'd hear the garage door go up. Daddy's home, and we'd all, like Pavlovian Von Traps, we'd run downstairs to the service door where the garage man, he'd open the door, like, hi, Daddy. Kisses all around, and one of us would get anointed with the responsibility of making Dad his drink. That Formica bar got a lot of action. It was either scotch and soda for the normal days, or gin. Just gin. with a spritz for the more challenging days. He'd go upstairs, change into his favorite moo-moo, come down, scoop his drink off the bar, and go to his greenhouse. For 45 minutes, that man would smoke, enjoy his cocktail, water his plant babies, and talk on the phone with a cord that could go to all four corners. After we knew dinner was ready, when the waft of cigarettes and orchids would go through the house, Dad would reemerge from the greenhouse like reborn. It was a miracle. After dinner, Dad would often work in his study. And I remember in junior high school, I walked in his study and I was like, he's working away at his desk. Dad, can you help me with my homework? And he did one of these. I got my degree. I suggest you work on yours. Oh, what a punch in the old guttaroo, man. But I realized I just wanted to spend time with him. That's what that was about. So I came up with an ingenious way. I created our own book club, and we read the entire Nancy Drew detective series together. I told you this man was great, right? It would take me a week to read. It would take him about 30 seconds to page through, get the plot and the theme, and we could discuss it intelligently over breakfast. I thought this man was a genius. Side note, that line, I got my degree, I used that on all 3 kids. All of them. Never helped him, not once. And besides, not once. And besides, after 3rd grade, I couldn't help with their math if I tried. Thank you, Daddy. Slept like a baby. So, here's the thing about my dad. He, again, new generation Italian, kind of greaseball-y in an adorable way. Pinky rings, gold chains, impossibly tan, charming as fuck, new Cadillac every 2 years. We belong, baby. He had a beautiful wife, a beautiful house, daughters. It's all good. But from the outside, looking in, from the outside, it looked like we belonged. But really, we were like the Oak Brook Beverly Hillbillies. Because my dad's mentality was still in Willisville. Waste not, want not, work hard, you name it, right? Case in point, I'm 16 now, got my Farrah Fawcett haircut going, my little uniform skirt going to high school. I'm going down the stairs and I see this deranged Elmer Fudd, father of mine, in a moo-moo with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth and an air rifle, blowing away rabbits and squirrels who happened to be at the wrong place in the wrong time in our backyard. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? He's like, well, they're in my garden. I was horrified. And then he goes, go get them. I'm like, no, ew, gross. You too good, Jodi? You too good? Off I went. I'm going through the yard, picking them up by their little bunny little legs, taking them into the utility room to hold them over a sink so my dad could skin them. I knew I was going to see that on my plate that night. And then, so I'm terrified, but then, after it was done, Dad kisses me on the cheek and says, okay, honey, go to school now. Bye. Okay, so I get in my fancy car, in my fancy uniform skirt to drive to my fancy private high school with bunny and squirrel blood under my nails. So how would a resourceful, independent, competent, capable person handle this? You pull out the stolen Benson and Hedges menthol, you light it up, you add a little extra mascara, a little forbidden eyeliner, hike up that skirt, and go kick that day in the D. Flash forward, I'm 60. Guess who's wearing a moo-moo now? Guess whose mustaches appeared? Rabbits, squirrels, I'm watching you. Good night.